Rape remains a very complex and deeply rooted societal challenge, intersecting with legal, cultural, and psychological dimensions. As awareness grows, so does the need to address victim experiences, societal attitudes, and the legal framework surrounding sexual violence. With us today, we will be discussing and exploring the critical aspects and highlighting the ongoing struggles for justice and understanding the cases of rape. With us today, we have Miss Advocate Usha Andevor, who brings over 30 years of legal acumen as a distinguished advocate specializing in criminal law, actively participating across Mumbai and Thane courts. Her academic journey includes a BCom and an LLB from Mumbai University, complemented by an LLM in human rights from SNDT Women's University. She plays a pivotal role as a lawyer, focusing ardently on LGBT and human rights issues. Proficient in English, Hindi, and Marathi, she also imparts knowledge through engaging workshops and enlightening lectures, embodying a profound commitment to legal education and advocacy for the marginalized communities with elegance and diligence. Ma'am, as you have been practicing for a span of 30 years, can you please tell us how the approach of the victims has changed so far? Are they more vocal or are they yet scared about the societal norms?
Whether they are vocal or yet confused is the word which I will use, because most of the time it's the not the victim who wants to go to the police or not. It's decided by the family whether they want to go to the police or not. So I will say that in urban at least they are more vocal because they are a little bit independent in nature, but rural it's still the case of no.
So, do you think that rape reporting has increased in the urban areas because of education and empowerment of women as compared to
Absolutely,
rural
I
areas?
think so. It's one of the reasons why the rape cases have increased. We see that actually the reporting has increased. Might be the rape which actually occurs before and now, might be the numbers are the same, but now the reporting is more and reporting in the media is also more.
So, what do you think is the cause of rape? Many people say it's the way women dress, or like the clothes that the girl was wearing, or it's the time at which she was stepping out of her house. But what do you think is the main reason, or still the issue surrounding rape, the cause behind it?
The main cause, I would say, is the sadistic approach of the men, because how you dress up, even does it mean that a burqa clad woman is not raped? She's so dressed from top to bottom, but still it happens. So, and the second thing is like how a boy is brought up in the family. That is also one of the reasons. Like mentally, they are might be there is a issue, we cannot make it out. So how they are brought up might be, I'm not saying all the guys who rape they are not brought up properly, might be they are brought up very properly, but what happens at that time, and at that time when they are in drunk conditions with the drugs and the peer pressures, that also makes them one of the thing, like might be they don't want to do it, but then like are you sissy, or are you good, or something like that, that makes them like no, they want to say that I am manly enough. So there are various things. You can't pinpoint that this is one reason for which the rape had occurred.
Now that we are discussing the reasons, we've had cases like the Hathras rape incident where caste was also a major factor considered. So, have you personally come across such cases or where there has been a caste divide?
The rural areas, in the villages, this is one of the main reason. If you know that the POSH Act, the Sexual Harassment Act, which has come, which happened because of this casteism. When Bamri Devi was raped, and because she was a, you might be knowing that reason, like she was a social worker working against the child marriage, and the Thakurs of that village found that she has stopped the child marriage in our society, and she's from a lower caste. How dare she does it, and how dare she brings the police, and so they gang raped her. And that's how the Sexual Harassment Acts come. The Vishaka, the NGO, took it into his account. And so the caste is still there in the villages. But as far as urban is concerned, it doesn't matter. Like,
So, when it comes personally to when you are personally dealing with such cases, how do you, as an advocate, handle a rape victim or let's say even an accused as your client? Like, what are their basic concerns and how do you cater to them?
to the victim, we appear so that as an intervener in the matter to see to it that the matter is taken to such an extent that the person is convicted. So in that sense, we have handled many matters with the for the victims. Like, so basically here, when you are dealing with a victim, you have to be with like for instance, give them what do you call it, like. Support system, and say that whatever you are going to say is going to be within us, but then we have to give them even confidence that whatever has happened she has to say, so that the person goes behind bars, because without the confidence the person will not be able to say anything. Like, and the confidence of the family also has to be there, like first and foremost, because the family support, confidence of the family, that many times it so happens that the family does not want to go to the court because there might be another girl child in the family, तो उसका शादी नहीं होगा, or people will look down, and so the support system of the family is one thing which is a must. So as a lawyer, we are not supposed to say anything against the family, but bring the family together with the victim and go ahead with the matter. So we see to it that family stands behind the victim like a strong wall, so that the victim goes and says everything.
Very rightly said, ma'am. So, when you're handling these rape cases, like, what is it? What is the compensation or the remedy that the victims truly want, considering they've gone through this lifetime traumatizing event? What is it that they are genuinely seeking?
They are genuinely seeking for the punishment only, because even sometimes the compensation is given, but they are saying that a compensation हमें नहीं चाहिए. Many times they don't even take the compensation. I have seen in a molestation case, etc. They say that compensation हमें नहीं चाहिए. I want to see that person goes and suffers in the gallows, like, and is not let off. But to some extent, when the compensation is given to to the victim, they take also, because if they are from a very low strata people, like, and after the rape they require a lot of medical and mental care, which requires money. So in that situation, yes. But usually I have found that the victim wants only the imprisonment, or those things, like they don't want compensation.
So, when it comes to the path of justice, when it comes to rape, do you think that still things like position of power or money or contacts are of any relevance when it comes to gaining justice?
Yes, it has it. But in today's world, when media is so strong enough, the media finds the thing out, and they see to it that the person who has done it are arrested. Whatever contacts you have, might be the initial stage, you can come away with that, get away with that, but then when the media start talking, but unless until you buy up the media also. So that is not possible, because you can't buy each and every person, like for instance Jessica Lal's murder case. So this murder case also was because of the media, it came out and everything. Arushi murder case and all those things, like, so you will have uptin thing. Media is both ways. It's a coin wherein you can make use of it in a good manner, or it can mar, media trial can mar everything away, like. So but media can be used in a very positive manner when such people try to get away with such heinous crime as rape.
So, actually, talking about media, let's discuss about the recent Kolkata rape case only, which garnered so much social media attention. So, what do you think is the best way to get the desired outcome? Like, so is just strengthening the laws an answer, or we need to first look at the more deeply rooted causes of rape, and how do you change that?
See, the first and foremost is like you have to strengthen the law. And now, after the Nirbhaya case, etc., the law is actually strong enough, because on consent, etc., when a girl says that I'm not consented for the sexual act, that means it has to be taken as no. So the law is already strong enough, and now the BNSS and everything has changed. Okay, within 6 months, the case has to get over, and all those things. So it's all fast tracked now. So it's very nice that the law is made stronger, but to make it little bit, even though it's stronger, I'm not saying that the law was not stronger before. Might be the implementation was little bit somewhere loose, like. But now everything is stronger, but still it's happening. Why is it happening? Because the fear is there or not there. The fear is not there. So how to have the fear? Much more punishment, the stronger punishment. The maximum punishment to be given. Might be the punishment can be changed. Instead of 10 years, they all think that 10 years mean good behavior, I'll come out sooner. Implementation has to be made proper and faster. And the second thing is that the approach to a rape victim should be different. Like, she should not be made to be felt like she's an accused in the matter. Most of the time it happens like that. The questioning is like that, as if she's an accused. Like as you said, because you wore this, because you went at night, because you drank. All these are the reasons because you got raped yourself. Like, so that approach should be changed. The society should change the approach of that. And the third thing is the boy should be made right from the beginning, like he has to respect the other sex, and not the other sex is not for under him in any manner, that he can play with them like a toy or whatever it is like. So that has to be the respect thing which has to come, is like from the home, from the school, from the college, everywhere. Like, so that has to be embedded in them. Might be in that sense, and everything is made strong, implementation made strong, the girls go right, instead of saying I don't want to go to the police, goes and records the FIR, and all these things happen along with the mind change of the men in the society. Possibly, might be there is a decrease, possibly.
So, when talking about actually men, have you ever had any incidents where men or boys are being raped? And what course of action is actually provided in those kind of cases?
The boy was raped in a some ground, ground ka bathroom, and he went to play for cricket, and but nothing happened. I'm now when I think of it, I'm surprised. Like, koi police gaya nahi, nothing happened. It was just brushed up, because boys cannot be raped. Okay, that is one thing. But yes, there are incidents where boys are raped in many places. The thing is that there is no law which says boys can be raped, because the section starts with a man.
Man.
So in that sense, boys cannot be raped. But yes, it can be on the serious injuries and the other sections, it can be late. And the second thing is, when boys are raped, they don't go to a police because they feel ashamed. They feel embarrassed. The families feel embarrassed. So I have not seen in my life any person going to a court that he has been raped or molested or whatever it is like. Okay, that happens like. And even in the big organizations, when a boy is little bit feminine or a little bit tender or something, the things which goes into a sexual harassment goes to him also. But even the sexual harassment is only for women. So in that case also, he is not having any thing. They have to go into the disciplinary action. And in the disciplinary action also, he feels very embarrassed to go and complain that people, the men have treated me like this. So basically, even I'm not saying gender wise they are so strong enough, but it happens to them also. Might be at the age when they don't know what's happening to them, or when they know it's happening to them, they are feeling more embarrassed. They think that I am in some manner not so manly enough that this has happened to me. So I don't want to go.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges with India. Like, besides the patriarchal notion where men have this thing that they need to overpower women, there's also stigma and convention that men cannot be raped.
Absolutely.
So, one of such other conventional notions are about marital rape. When we discuss about that a woman who is married cannot be raped. Now, with the provision of marital rape still blurry in nature, what do you think is the difference between the social and legal understanding of marital rape?
See, the social understanding is that every man has a right as a husband to have sex with his wife. Okay, that is the underlying thing. Like, for instance, if a woman says no to the sex to a husband, it's a mental cruelty to a man. He can go for divorce with regards to that. So marital rape ऐसा है ही नहीं अपने इंडिया में. There's nothing like marital rape. Okay, so even if there is something, then it is only when the woman is staying away from the husband under judicial separation or otherwise, and she doesn't consent to the rape. There is a section now which was not there in the IPC, which is 67. Section 67 of the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha, Bharatiya Nagrik Sanhita, Nyay Sanhita,
Yes.
BNS, I get confused. Okay, so there is a provision, but yahan par bhi there is a legality is there. But one thing is that it's very difficult to prove a marital rape, because it happens in the four walls, within the four walls. Who is going to come and give witness, evidence with regards to that? It can be, and another thing is like, it can be misused like anything by women. Because I have seen that there are many laws which women-centric are there at the beginning were misused, like 498A, etc. Then sexual harassment also in many organizations. So naturally, it will be a difficult thing to prove the marital rape. So I would leave it like, yes, even if it is introduced into the system as a marital rape is an offense, then it has to be with its provisos which safeguards the man also. Because as a lawyer, I would say that it has to be both ways. A man and women both have to be safeguarded with regards to the rights like.
So, if I were to ask you on that question, do you think that marital rape must also be a punishable offense?
If
Given
it,
everything.
as I said, if it is there, then it has to be with a lot of provisos. It has to be like how it has to be proved has to be very much clarified. Otherwise, it is going to be misused a lot.
Agreed. So when we talk about like the problems that are actually being faced when criminalizing marital rape, I think consent also becomes a very big issue with marital rape. So how do you think is the understanding scope or nature of consent different in cases of marital rape or normal rape?
See, normal rape, it clearly says that if a woman says no, then it has to be taken as a no, and there is no question to be asked in evidence. Okay. But in marital rape, as I said, if a woman is unwilling to have sex with her husband and does not consent it, then that is also taken as a mental cruelty for a divorce. So, in that sense, how you define consent? So that's why I'm saying, like, even if it is being a marital rape comes into picture with regards to women, that it has to be legalized, then it has to be with lot of provisos which talks very clearly about when, where, how the consent, etc., has to be taken into account. Like,
So do you think something like implied consent comes into a picture here where
implied consent, see, my girl, when a person is married, it's an implied thing
Implied.
that you have given consent for having sex.
exactly? So how do you deal with such intricacies?
That's what I'm saying. It's a very difficult, and that to the Indian context, it is very difficult. Like, if you know that there are persons who may get married who don't know each other. They are just families I've seen. They get married. First night होता है. क्या होता है उसमें? You don't know anyone. So whether there is a consent, there is no consent, but you have to sleep with the person because it is पहली रात है.
So actually talking about the point where you said about a stranger, there's a statement that was made by our Honorable Chief Justice of India. I would just like to iterate that. The insertion of a foreign object into women amounts to rape if done by a stranger but not by her husband. What do you have to say about this statement, considering how you just said in India's culture, where the women, some women don't even, never even see the people, the man that they are marrying, and for them, even they are as good as being a stranger.
Absolutely.
So-
See, for instance, there are instances in the family code wherein the woman comes for sexual harassment or mental cruelty, wherein mental cruelty ये भी है under the act, saying that having sex which is not natural, that is also considered to be a mental cruelty. I don't like it. If a woman says I don't like it, then you have to stop. So that is also considered to be a mental cruelty, but it's not there in the IPC or now the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So that is the only thing like.
So, with the definition of rape widening, we can see that the grief of many victims are being addressed. Now, as you are constantly in practice, what according to you needs to be added or subtracted from the definition of rape to make it more just?
See, first and foremost, I will say that a man को निकाल के a person डाल दो. Let it be gender neutral, because in today's world there is and actually a bill came, but it was not they just did not pass it. They kept it as men and against the women, like. So at least that, if it is the main thing, is that it should be gender neutral, because we also know that boys are also raped in many cases. So why not? Is the suffering more for a woman and not for a man? No, दोनों का same sufferings है, दोनों का feeling same है. So why this parity? It should be, why this differentiation? There should be a parity. So first and foremost, it should be gender neutral, what I think. And now, because of the sexual minorities who are seen now, LGBTQI and plus, whatever it is like. In that situation, yes, it has to be made as a gender neutral. And I think all the other provisions are quite handled in the act.
So, what about false rape cases? Do you think there needs to be some provision or legal?
There is a
framework?
provision, actually there's a provision that if it's a false rape case, then case can be filed against the victim who has falsely alleged and all those things like. But what happens is nothing, because once the accused is acquitted from the thing, they don't take it further. because they are very happy that they are out of it. Like they don't take action against the person who has falsely alleged, but they can under the IPC they can do that. Now under the BNS they can do that, but they don't do it.
So I believe we've come to an end to today's discussion. In conclusion, addressing the multifaceted issue of rape requires a very comprehensive approach that prioritizes multiple things like victim support, legal reform, and societal change, as has been very rightly pointed out by our today's guest speaker. By amplifying victims' voices and challenging the harmful conventional norms, we can work towards a more just and equitable framework. Ultimately, fostering a culture of respect, consent, and accountability is essential to prevent sexual violence and support those affected. It was great having you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very